Why are Muslim men allowed up to 4 wives, and why are Muslim women not allowed up to 4 husbands?
Okay, so the question, basically there are two questions. Firstly, why are Muslim men allowed to marry up to 4 wives? And why are Muslim women not allowed to marry up to 4 husbands? These two questions. So if we look at the first question, why are Muslim men allowed to marry up to 4 wives? We have to bear in mind that before the advent of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, there was no limit to the number of wives a man could have. For example, we read in the Bible, in the book 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 3, that Prophet Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. So there was no limit. And we have an injunction in the Quran in chapter 4, it's called chapter Nisa, when God Almighty allowed men to marry more than one wife, have second, third or fourth wife, depending on their capacity and ability and resources, because there was a battle in which 10% of the Muslim soldiers were killed. So now there were 10% of the women who were widows, and of course they had orphans, children who were now orphans, and there was no one to look after them. And the social welfare system had not been established yet. So it is under highly exceptional and extraordinary circumstances that a man is permitted to marry another woman in order that he may look after her and the orphans. And depending on his ability and resources and capability, he can undertake the responsibility for yet another family and yet another. So the point to be borne in mind is that it's not for lust, but it's a sacrifice that a man has to make under those exceptional circumstances. And the wife also makes sacrifices by allowing her husband to undertake those additional responsibilities. And also, in our times, for example, after the Second World War, when there were a lot more women than there were men, so men, they were married and they also had mistresses. So these mistresses were questioned by the reporters, and they were asked that would they not prefer to be a second wife, third wife or fourth wife rather than being a mistress. And they all without exception said that they would much prefer to be a second wife, third wife or fourth wife rather than being a mistress. When questioned as to why, they said that, you see, our relationship is hidden and we are guilty conscious. If we were married properly, even if our second, third or even fourth wife, our conscience would be clear and our children will be legitimate and our children would have the right of inheritance as well as we would have the right of inheritance. So they all agreed to that. So this rule is, or this allowance is, only under highly exceptional circumstances. The norm is one, because Prophet Adam only had one wife. So the norm is one, but under those highly exceptional, highly extraordinary circumstances, that men are permitted to undertake the responsibility for second family, third family, or fourth family, so that they may look after the widows and the children. Now, the second question, why are women not allowed to have up to 4 husbands? Well, you see, women, if they are divorced, then they can marry second husband, or if they're divorced again, third husband, fourth, fifth, or even sixth, like that. But they're only allowed to have one husband at a time. The reason being that Islam gives children certain rights. And one of the rights is that a child must know who the father is and who the mother is. Now, when a man has 4 wives, the child knows who the father is and who the mother is. But when a woman has 2, 3 or 4 husbands, then the child would not know who the father is. He knows or she knows who the mother is, but not who the father is. And even with this DNA system that we have, I have come across it personally, mistakes are being made. So there is nothing definite. So that's due to this reason that Islam permits women to only have one husband at a time. Now, also that there are certain social problems. For example, in Islam, a man is regarded as the head of the family, and woman is regarded as the heart of the family. Now, if she had two husbands, who would be the head of the family? And you can't have two heads because it won't work. The reason being that you don't have two presidents in a country. You don't have two kings in a country. So to have two heads in one family would present a lot of problem. And if she had two husbands, then the problem would be multiplied. Three husbands, it would be triply multiplied. There are other reasons also. For example, when wife is terminally ill and husband has to look after her, then it would be difficult for him to go out and work, look after the children and the wife who is ill. Therefore, with mutual agreement, he may decide to take another wife, so that he could then go out and work, and the second wife can look after the children and the wife. Another reason could be when the wife is barren and she can't bear children. But of course, they both want children. So they decide that the husband should marry a second wife. But of course, to say that husband marrying a second wife is easy. But they have to first of all find a lady who would be agreeable to become a second wife, because there is no compulsion in this. And it's only when they are able to find some lady who is willing to become the second wife that the man can marry the second wife. And so, under these type of exceptional circumstances, would a man marry another wife.